Hello, everyone. This is Epic Ray from the channel that you love dearly, Epic Ray Comedy. And I am back for another episode. I know it's been a very, very long sabbatical since I've actually put out an episode. Things have just been going hot and heavy for me, and I haven't been able to put out much content. But the time is over, that time is done. And now we're actually going to be able to bring in more new content. We got a new background as well, a beautiful new background that was designed for me by a friend of mine, holding a bunch of themes of games and lore that I love, movies as well. If you can spot or know all the different movie titles, games from each one, let me know. And if you figure all of them out, there might be a special prize at the end. If not, or if you don't care, it's okay. But we are back once again for another episode of the Hard Cannon Podcast. And this is going to be one doozy of an episode because we are talking about one of my favorite topics ever in history, and that is piracy itself. Piracy has been lasting as long as I can probably think of, going back years and years and years, centuries, even to the point where when people started and realized they could cross the oceans, lakes, whatever on boats, that's when I believe piracy honestly began. But before we jump into that episode, I need to bring in my buddy, my friend, my co-host, Remy. How are you?
I've been doing all right, good sir. Doing the best that I can. How have you been?
I've been good. I've been doing pretty well, and this is an episode that you and I have been talking about for a long time, especially with the resurgence of Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag resynced. The trailer, if you haven't seen it, is amazing. The graphics, I think, have been turned up to a 10. They almost mirror, if I could possibly boldly say, they honestly on the same level as Assassin's Creed Unity. They are that good. So I would honestly say this is a new step for Ubisoft and what they're doing, and hopefully, fingers crossed, we get Assassin's Creed 1 resynced, because that is a game that I've been wanting for like the longest time. And if I hear about it, or if there's any like noise or anything about it that you guys know about or may hear, let me know. And I will be pre-ordering that, and I will play it on the channel. I don't care how old the game is; it will be done.
I still have not ever played the first Assassin's Creed.
It is a difficult game to start because there are parts of it that are repetitive. But if you are an Assassin's Creed fan, I do stress for everyone that wants to start the series off right that they play this game. A lot of people came in with AC2 with Ezio, which is completely understandable. He is probably the most popular assassin out of all of them put together. And I completely understand why, because they're probably to this day is probably their most famous and probably most bought game of the series. Possibly the only one that's close is Black Flag, which is probably going to get a whole lot more sales for the game, which is going to increase over time. But for with Assassin's Creed ones, um, I do try and stress this. When it comes to the philosophy of the Templars and the Assassins, when it comes to their overall viewpoint and everything, it is probably expressed the best in Assassin's Creed 1. What their mindset is, what their goal is, and contradictory that they have between each other is probably said the most in the first game, because you start to question things heavily even if you're playing Altair when you're fighting against the Templars, because when you're talking to them after you've done your bit with the hidden blade in the game, they begin talking, and you start to understand why their mindset is the way that it is, why they're doing the way they are. And like even Altair gets to a point where he's like, they seem, positive and motive. It's just the way they're acting out about it is bad. And that's a theme that's brought up multiple times in the first game. And even the philosophy of the assassins in the game is still flawed. And you see it even in the further games that we get into Revelations and even AC3, we realize that the mindset in Assassins is still flawed, just as the Templars is. So there is no right or wrong side when it comes to them, but it's just the way they're going about their actions. But to say all that, with AC4 coming up, Remy, are you getting the game?
Oh, It's already pre-ordered and it's already in my library. I'm just waiting for it to actually become available to play. I've been
Uh,
staring at it as going, I want to go on the high seas again, but I don't want to play the original because the new one's coming out.
and correct me if I'm wrong, the game drops June 3rd, correct?
Let me have a look.
I believe it is June 3rd. If I'm guessing correctly, it is June 3rd. But
Little,
I
little
mean,
bit off the mark there, unfortunately. I would love it to be June 3rd because that would be in 3 days from now. But no, it's July 9th. So
July
we
9th.
still, so we've got about about a month and a little bit, about a month and 2 weeks.
About a month ago. And so if you haven't already, pre-order the game because it is going to be something special. We're back with Edward Kenway. We are back with those infamous pirates of the time, Blackbeard, Anne Bonny, who is one of my personal favorites, Mary Read, Captain Bartholomew Roberts, Charles Vane. Who else? I'm missing one. Ben Hornigold, Calico Jack, and so many others. So they are all back. Stede Bonnet. To some of these pirates I mentioned, we'll be actually be going over them in today's episode. So it is going to be something great to revisit the game over again. So this isn't an advertisement for Ubisoft. This is just me saying if you want to play this game again, pre-order now because the game drops July 9th. And I hope you all enjoy it. But for now, let's go ahead and get into the golden age of piracy, or piracy in and of itself. And
Oh, yes.
to before I go over the definition, uh Remy, what is your definition of a pirate?
Hmm. You've put me on the spot now. um, we'll come back to that in a bit because now I have actually been put on the spot and my mind's gone blank.
I got you. So I have a definition pulled up here. So the I'm guessing the correct definition for piracy, from what I get from the sort of Webster's dictionary, piracy is an act of robbery or criminal violence by ship or boat-borne attackers upon another ship or coastal area, typically intending to steal cargo, valuable goods, or take hostages.
That is pretty broad spectrum for piracy, but yeah, that's pretty much the definition of it.
Now, as we move into more modern times, piracy has changed something. Not just is not just set just for doing things over water. It's any type of taking of goods or cargo, and it's not even limited to what can happen on oceans. It happens. I believe they have a label of that on like movies and everything like that. Like those who, steal like visual representation of movies and everything is considered piracy in their eyes, even though it's not done over the waters. So
Yeah.
it
Even
is.
there's the same with games as well. Like you hear it all the time about games being pirated.
Yep, or bootlegging movies, like it happens very very much, and like the term has gotten so broad to what it could actually and honestly be, and it's brought about, and even piracy has even brought up made its way into mainstream and produced movies like Treasure Island, Peter Pan. It's multiple movies of Peter Pan, and even most famously the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. So piracy has been a part of culture for a very long time, whether in a good or bad way. So it is something that I think honestly needs a broad definition in and of itself because of the way it is considered.
Oh yes. Now in what was it in like the actual like age of piracy and stuff like that? It literally was the act of piracy was raiding maritime ships. and then taking the cargo from there. That's where the actual label of pirates started coming around, I believe.
Yeah, because it was primarily done over waters, and like piracy was the act, but like it became the term
Anonymous with the
pirates.
actual people as well.
Yeah, and like the early instances that we have of a a more famous portion of piracy, we have to go back to ancient times, and one of the most famous ones was of Julius Caesar. So Julius Caesar was actually captured by Sicilian pirates during his young years, um, before he actually rose to power, and he actually had to be ransomed back to the Roman Republic, and they had to pay an extensive amount of money for his return, because they were unwilling to surrender him back, due to this. And what ultimately happened, because what was he? He was, let's see here. Yeah, they the ransom money was 50 talents, which is, I don't know how much that is in our current money, but something tells me it was quite a bundle. And what ended up happening was, once the money was surrendered, um Julius Caesar actually had the pirates executed by crucifixion, if I'm not mistaken, afterwards, because you're not going to capture him, ransom him, and just get away with it. Like, he made sure, like, okay, you got your money now, but you're getting paid. You're going to get paid for this later.
Yeah. So to add on to that as well, so looking at it here, Caesar actually was so originally the the Sicilian pirates, um, they ransomed him back for the 20 talents, and he was insulted at how low that was. So he insisted that the pirates raise the demand to 50, which was more suitable for his status at the time. As a yeah, he was a lawyer at the time, which I believe was part of his. I want to say it was part of like the family tradition. I could be very wrong in that. It has been a very long time since I've actually looked at Julius Caesar. Um, but he he actually said after, like during his time with the pirates, that after he was free and after the money was actually given to them, he would come back with a vengeance and kill them all. They thought it was a joke, so they didn't take him seriously until he came back, and
Killed them with a
might be
vengeance.
slightly graphic. Oh yeah, might be slightly graphic. He decided to cut. He decided to slit their throats first, and then crucify them.
That is Julius Caesar in a nuthole, folks. Like, he will shake your hand and stab you with it later.
Yeah, he was ruthless in what he did, but like with a lot of the eventual Roman, what's it like the politicians at the time, it was very much cutthroat.
And like, if to just another side note, if you actually want to take a look about Caesar, there's a good documentary on Netflix talking about it. They go over his brief high points of his career. The piracy one is not mentioned, but it's still a good watch for anyone that's a fan of Caesar's work. But I just looked it up. So 50 talents of silver, to equivalent to our time, is $5.3 million US.
That is that's a fair amount.
It's a fair amount. It is five point
What
three
would the
million
20 talents
dollars.
be?
So that is an impressive amount to be asking for him. And like, if they honestly knew who he was and who he would be, they probably would have asked for 500. Honestly,
Oh, if they knew if he had been captured while he was at the height of his power, one, I'm pretty sure they would have turned and fled immediately, or two, they would have asked for basically like half the Roman Empire's worth of of coin.
because some tells me these guys were there's like, look, you either give us the money or like we kill you and crucify you. Like, look, well, we can go because here's the thing, sir. We either you either give us the money or we take you out because we have nothing to lose at this point. If we don't get the money, we're dead. And if we get the money, we can, spread out, leave, because we realize once we get the money, we're a target. We're dead either way. So give us the money and let us go about our way, or we take you out and you kill us anyway. Because either way, we're all dead men. So we'd rather just have the money. So it
Yeah,
was, yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say. So one thing to another thing to add with not so much on the whole like the Julius Caesar being captured part, but the whole one of the reasons why like these pirates became so prolific in the Mediterranean was because at that point, pretty much all of the other powers had fallen except Rome. Like the Romans, they had just sacked Carthage. The Egyptian Empire, like they were no longer like a big naval power anymore. Like they were slowly starting to decline. So and it was just Rome there. But Rome was really only interested in its waters. It didn't really care about the rest of the Mediterranean. So these pirates then started just like branching out slowly, just like picking off ships here and there, and then turn into like a full-on operation, just like raiding all the way the from Gibraltar all the way over to like Crete and like the Greek Isles and stuff like that.
Do you remember the story about who was it? I think it was in the Greece period. I think it might have been the Persians when they went to attack Greece. I'm not sure exact. I could be wrong. There was a general who used boats to make like a bridge across waters. I forget who it was. I think it might have been one of the Persians. I'm not exactly sure who it was. Someone can correct me in the comments who it might be. But he moved his boats side by side and then he put planks across them to make a path so they could actually walk across it and transport his army. Not exactly sure.
For some reason, something is nagging in the back of my mind that it's Hannibal, but I don't think so. I know Hannibal crossed the Alps. I don't think he did that. It might have been the Persians. I think the Romans did it as well, where they like crossed some like major river by putting a couple of their ships together.
That could possibly be it. It's gonna drive me crazy. Well, I'm looking it up right now. But while I'm doing that, go briefly over the Viking time because they were considered raiders, but also in some form they are technically pirates in a way.
Yeah. So if I remember correctly, the Vikings were more like raiders and marauders in the eyes of everyone that they attacked. I believe in their eyes, they were like, "Hey, we basically have the moral obligation of we're stronger, take what we can and give nothing back." Using the
Yeah,
using a slight piracy motto. But yeah, they. So I know that they'd. My knowledge on Vikings is isn't that great, unfortunately. But if I remember correctly, they basically raided up and down. Was it like all the way through the Scandinavian waters, and then all the way through like coastal Europe, even as far down as Africa, and I believe as far across as the Northern Americas. So like Canada, North America, like north of actual America itself.
uh, okay. Oh, I was right. I was right. It was Xerxes the first. He
I
used he
suppose
used them
so.
to he had his engineers lash his ships side by sides to create a massive walkway. um he failed the first time because the storm destroyed it, but they ended up rebuilding the bridge, and using it to cross over into in order to invade Greece.
That yeah, that sounds fair.
Because otherwise, it would have had to take time to actually go across and cross into certain areas, and this was the way for him quickest to get his army across. So that's
Yeah.
actually a brilliant, brilliant move.
Oh yeah, really good strategy, and most likely absolutely terrifying for the Greeks at the time because it's just like, ah, yes, no one will be able to cross our waters. We have, you know, you know, we hold the passes. Like nothing can get through to us. Why do I hit elephants coming out from the ocean?
Mm-hmm.
Who angered Poseidon? Oh, we did. Oh no.
And like the distance that he used these boats for was amazing. And like from what I'm seeing here, it took his army it took them 7 days and nights to get across. This is including the army, the baggage, the animals, anything they needed across there.
Hmm.
So this was an act of very like extreme ingenuity, but and like also the just determination.
Yeah, it's pretty much just going. I'm going to get across this body of water, whether you like it or not, and no one's going to stop me. Not man, not gods, not beasts.
So from what I can see here, the uh let's see here. If I'm looking at this right, if I'm looking at this the way if I'm looking at this correctly here, the distance from land to all over the sea to the other side of land was I think 1,400 yards. If I'm looking at this right, interesting. That's very interesting. Hmm.
That's a fair amount of distance.
I mean, this shows the oh wow this oh so after the first time after they failed to open the to fix the bridge because the storm just randomly happened, he got enraged and oh my god, this is hilarious.
So he upset Poseidon.
No. So he's so mad he ordered that the sea be whipped 300 times and
Oh, it's this one.
had shackles thrown into the water as punishment for defying him.
Which makes sense, as Xerxes did consider himself a god among made flesh,
And to add
and his people thought of him as a god as well. The lot
after
among
this
them.
after this actually happened, he had all the engineers who were responsible for building it beheaded. So not only do you think you dodged the punishment because he's there's probably 10 or 15 guys out there whipping the water for no reason and throwing shackles into the water. Now he's like, okay, we're done with that. All right, get over here. I'm chopping your heads off. I'm like, I thought you were mad at the ocean. Like, I am, but I took my frustrations out. Now I need to get to the heart of the problem, which is you guys.
Yeah. It's like I took my frustrations out on something that I know I cannot control, but I'm not going to tell you that I cannot control it. Now I'm going to actually take my frustration out on something that I can control, i.e., you.
Man, that is
Uh,
the crazy things that we my gosh.
History is wild. Just the amount of stuff that happened in ancient times, and someday, like historians and people are going to look back on like our times and go, "Wow, what crazy stuff happened then."
Like I'm pretty sure they'll be like, what the heck happened during COVID that their lives just changed so dramatically? And it's like, well,
It's
I
like, where did everyone start
mean,
wanting to roll?
some things happen dramatically, and we learn to deal with it in our own way. And we apply the knowledge that we had at the time, and we'll, you know, we'll see. Honestly, I'll probably gather a few people. Like I'm gonna probably gather you, Mari, and probably other couple people, and we're all gonna have a good just sit down and just talk about COVID, because that's an episode that
Oh
I need to
no.
bring a lot of people in for, because like there is so much to go over with
Dude,
it.
you know, 3/4 of that is going to be our shared trauma of working at the theme park during all this.
Honestly, yeah, for honestly for sure.
It's just going to be us going. Do you remember that one time? Ah,
There's gonna be a whole lot of
all of,
that. Be a whole lot of
oh
that.
yeah, the collective groaning
It's like, do you
of why
remember?
did you have to
Yeah, I
remind me
do.
of that? I was there, Gandalf, 3,000 years ago.
Oh man.
It was last week. I don't care. It felt like 3,000 years ago to me.
As you can see, folks, we process our trauma very, very. Uh, we try to process our trauma
Unproductively.
in our own way, and it's
uh,
good times, folks.
Fun
Good
times.
times. But so back to pirates. Back to pirates.
I'm gonna say we've gotten so off track. Piracy.
So before we all right, so we're probably going to start off with two of the most famous pirates of the time that actually laid the groundwork for a lot of the pirates that would be introduced into uh that essentially like a lot of pirates like drew their inspiration from. And the two most well-known pirates of the time are Captain Morgan and Captain Bartholomew. Now, Captain Morgan and Captain Bartholomew, or should I say Sir Henry Morgan and Captain Robert Bartholomew Roberts, these two were the ones who helped lay down the foundation for the Golden Age of Piracy, because they were not only two of the famous, but two of the most successful. Robert ended up helping establish a set of rules um, for um, for his pirates, and established a pirate code as well, because he realized that even though they're operating outside the law, there's still some there need to be some measure of law and order among the pirates. That's we had to still establish some rules, even though they were operating outside the law. I know I just said that before already, but they had to, because these were men who are pretty much, they're all criminals. They're Some of them are soldiers that have deserted. Some of them are even victims of more heinous crimes. So they're pretty much, these are the slugs and dregs of each of the worlds. France, Spain,
Mm,
Britain, pretty much. Some of them, not all of them.
yeah, I was gonna say at least like most of the original pirates were privateers during the wars at the time between England, France, and Spain. And then yeah, they did once they did turn pirate from private once the war ended and all three of the respective countries basically went, yeah, we don't need your services anymore. They'd basically gotten used to raiding the three empires' ships. They were just like, why don't we just keep doing what we're good at? And then went from privateers to pirates.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, eventually it did drag in a lot of for lack of a better term, like the scum of the Caribbean.
And with that, folks, we're gonna take just a brief break for just a moment, and we'll come back for now. Listen to this commercial break. And we're back after that commercial break for everyone. Sorry to cut immediately into that, but just we gotta make sure that our bodies are rested. We cannot jump the gun and try and do everything we can all at once. We're not mindless machines running off a battery. We actually have to let our bodies rest. But back to what
Do we though?
some of us do. Some of us do. But back to it. So a lot of as we were saying before, a lot of the pirates during that time, they were pretty much they were privateers, pretty much. So they had fought the war between England, France, and Spain, pretty much trying to get control over the waters. And then it got to a point where the wars were over and peace was signed. These guys were out of work. They had nothing left for them to do. Like all they knew was war. All they knew was capturing ships and taking them uh, for their kingdom, essentially, no matter who it was. And we see even now, like once the war is over, especially when veterans come back to the states, a lot of them have to figure out and find out what to do with themselves, because again, if the war was anything like World War I and II, where they spent extended years overseas, or even then, it's hard to go back to civilian life because you don't know. All you know was war at this point.
Yeah, it's like, and especially with at that time the privateers as well, because like the war had been, I forget which war it was, but it went on for probably, I think it was like close to a decade or something.
It was about 10 years, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, so it literally had just been just war the whole time, like fighting and capturing different ships of different empires and either sending them to the bottom or pillaging them for their respective empires, like you were saying. So once the war ended, they're all just like, well, we can't really go back home because home has moved on without us. And it's like going from, hey, this week I'm like last week I was raiding a like a Spanish treasure fleet and bringing back like thousands and thousands of reals for like the French Empire, and then suddenly it's like, well, this week I'm going back home and I'm cobbling shoes. Like it. So a lot of them did. A lot of them. So a lot of the privateers, they were like sick of they were sick of the war. They were sick of the fighting. They just wanted to go back and live peaceful lives again, which is honestly that is the end goal, just to have a nice peaceful life. Um,
I
but
think
some
I
of these
think that honest.
privateers, I
Sorry, I'm gonna
oh,
just jump in there. It's like
and I get
I think if anyone who's played the God of War games, pretty much have this was a line from who was it from? Crap, what's his name? The head. Crap, what's his name? Amir. He said, you know, that it got to a point that war was no longer fun, and some of the wars throughout history, they're literally fought just for fun because like people need a reason to fight, and it gets to a point where there's just so much bloodshed, so much infighting and backstabbing and distrust that it gets to a point where like what, we need to just cut our losses, sign some peace treaties, and let's move on with life because too much life has been taken, and we're not going anywhere with this. Let's set a truce, and let's just do what we got to do. But sorry, didn't mean to interrupt.
hmm. So I actually just looked it up while you were saying that as well. So the war that was going on at the time was actually the War of the Spanish Succession,
Mm.
which lasted for 13 years.
Jeez, so you were close. You were close.
Yeah. Da-da-da-da. Yeah.
13 years.
So yeah, the War of Spanish Succession, and it was it? Yeah, fought in North America as Queen Anne's War. So that happened because the at that time the Spanish monarch King Charles II actually died without an heir. So it started this massive secession between the great powers at the time. So the the French supported a French claimant to the throne, while England at that time, it was literally just England, it wasn't Great Britain. They backed they teamed up with the Dutch and at that point the Holy Roman Empire to back an Austrian Habsburg, and that's why that's that's what the war was about. It was literally these two claims on the throne just spiraled out this massive war. It wasn't a world war, but it was getting pretty close. But the war
Mm,
was mostly was it? It seems like the war was mostly out in the Caribbean itself and North America. Yeah, that's just the generalized
and
of
it,
it.
and
Uh,
it seems like uh because of what happened, going on to just the end portion of the war, a lot of these guys were pretty much just left out of work, and they turned to the one thing that they knew. Because guess what? They're broke. They weren't getting paid, pensions, none of that stuff. And the empires that they fought for, to lack of a better word, they were fat with riches. So
and it would also take months to get home. So a lot of these sailors who basically had put their entire lives, well, at least like 13 years of it, into this war and were broke, are suddenly just like, it. We're not gonna survive getting back to our home countries as well.
true, true. And to be completely honest, the one thing that these empires could have done to probably prevent this from happening is the one thing that caused the issue, because they told pretty much all these guys like, hey, we don't have the means to pay you all for a war that's over, but what we can do is have you um establish bases in the Caribbean, and you guys be our essentially our private our pri- they're essentially privateers. But what you're going to do is make sure that our ships get safely to their destinations. So essentially,
Yeah,
you will send out ships. We'll have one ship that's essentially just a protection ship. That ship will go to the Caribbean and get supplies and things that they need, and then another ship will take them to the colonies. Essentially, their insurance, basically their insurance, to make sure that goods and everything make it safe. They could also have been guardians or protectors for royalty that was crossing seas as well. The
yeah. I
empires
mean, like,
could have made them personal guards. Like the amount of pirates that were left out of work, they could have made them personal guards for a lot of people that were transporting a bunch of times. They could have made them people that wanted to go over to the new colonies, been like, hey, here here. So the amount of, they could have given them like, hey, we could have given you ships. These are your ships now. You can either help us transport goods or help us get people to the new colony to start work.
yeah,
And
and I I think some of it, they, like, if they did that, it probably would have helped out quite a lot. But at the time as well, the three empires were also broke.
yes, very much so, very much so.
Yeah, like I know that they were like raiding each ships and supply lines, and I know that there's definitely the whole like around that time there was like the Spanish treasure fleets and everything like that, like coming from the New World laden with gold.
Actually, let's do a brief jump in that, because it is actually mentioned in Assassin's Creed 4, the Spanish Gold Fleet. That's how Edward Kenway gets his ship, the Jackdaw, because the Spanish fleet that's supposed to take him back to where he's supposed to go was all the gold that they had gotten from the New World, and they were bringing it to Spain to help get them out of debt. If I'm not mistaken, and
Yes.
all of the money that was sunk under the that time was pretty much lost. So what Remy was talking about before, that they had their bailout, check. It just got lost along the way.
Oh yeah. And like going towards like modern history for a sec, that treasure fleet is still unaccounted for.
Oh
Like
yes.
I know a lot of a lot of like prospectors and a lot of treasure seekers have been basically flocking to the east coast of Florida for uh, basically centuries at this point, trying to dig up this treasure fleet. However, if I remember correctly, any treasure that is actually found from the treasure fleet automatically becomes protection of the state. So they can't actually do anything with it. It just basically has to get turned over to the state.
And I'm guessing if I'm guessing this as well, they are counting on people's good morals pretty much to be like, hey, we found this. Because I'm pretty sure, like, if you find gold, the last thing you're going to want to do is tell people about it.
Yeah, I have a feeling I remember hearing this as well. It was also made illegal to hunt for the treasure fleet because at one point it was like destroying the coastline, but also the fleet has been lost for about 300 years now.
Yeah,
So it's
2015. Yeah,
yeah, because yeah, 1701 to 1714. Even if it happened in even if the fleet was lost in like 1701, like 2001 would have been the 300-year mark.
yep. And like the just to, I'm actually as we continue going into this, um, because I want to see I just want to just check and see like how much that fleet was worth. Like,
It was a couple
eh,
billion if I remember correctly.
let me take a look here and see.
I know that there were multiple Spanish treasure fleets.
There was, yes. Just
Oh,
oh, you got it.
so over a span of 300 years, the multiple Spanish treasure fleets transported $500 billion worth of gold and silver.
Let that sink in, folks. $500 billion.
So the famous one. So the 1715 fleet. It was 11 ships. This is the one that's actually referenced in Black Flag. It was estimated to carry 400 million in gold, silver, and jewels, and it sank in the hurricane off Florida's east coast. Um, the oh god, there's another there's another one that got lost in a hurricane. Um, so the I am apologies in advance. I'm probably going to butcher this. My Spanish has never been great. The Nuestra Senora de Atocha in 1622. It was part of a fleet lost in a hurricane off the Spanish off the Florida Keys. It's just so it was discovered, I believe, but its discovered treasures are famously valued at over 400 million.
Interesting.
Um, there was the San Jose in 1708. It was sunk in battle near uh, Carta- Cartagena, Colombia, and the galleon holds an estimated 17 to 19 billion dollars in gold, silver, and emeralds.
Jeez.
That one I don't know. I don't know if it was found. Yes, it looks like it was found.
I tell you what. Can you imagine? Like, can you
Apparently that
imagine?
one. Apparently that one, the San Jose, was refound 2 years ago.
Can you imagine if, and I mean can you imagine if Spain got all of that back?
Oh, if Spain got all of that back, they would have become even more powerful.
Like, if they
Like
didn't
they,
lose any of, like, they got every single dime of that money.
oh yeah, they would be outrageously wealthy at that time. So if I remember correctly, so the European powers were powerful in their own right. Spain was actually, I believe, one of the weaker powers just because of where it was located. Like away from like the Holy Roman Empire. the Holy Roman Empire and like the major trade routes. And then when they started, when they basically started the colonialization, when they ran over to the Americas, they got pretty powerful pretty quickly just from the stuff that they were pulling back. Because
Man,
it wasn't just gold and silver and gems they were bringing back. They were also bringing back like pearls, spices, sugar, tobacco, silk, like, and they were transporting in the other direction like oil and wine and books and tools and stuff like that from the old world to the new. So it was very lucrative for them. And then eventually, the other big power, some of the other empires at the time, i.e., like France and England, they started they started doing that as well. Not to the same degree as the Spanish. Like they, in that time, they basically had a monopoly on that trade for a while. Because at that point, they had spread all the way from modern day Mexico, like the southern United States, all the way down to like modern Brazil and I believe Ecuador. I want to say,
I think so. That sounds about right.
yeah.
Can
Please do not butcher me in the comments.
can you imagine also if the pirates of that time had gotten their hands on that entire fleet? Like they managed to take the ships with all the wealth. Can you imagine how dangerous them as a group would have been? Because at that point,
Oh yeah,
they have enough to not only buy ships, they have enough to build fortresses, build everything they need to defend all they have. They're able to buy medicine, they're able to buy cannons, build towns, essentially get people to come from all of the other nations, Spain, France, and England, to come there and live there. They could have ruled the entire Caribbean with that money. So it truly was an act of God, because if anyone had gotten their hands on this money, it would have been something
oh
else.
yeah. So slightly pulling into that, but also slightly moving on the topic of the piracy. Have you ever heard of Libertalia?
I have not.
So, as far as I know, and I could be wrong, but as far as I am aware, the actual place doesn't exist. But it was proposed by multiple pirate captains at the time to basically pool their resources together, i.e., like the big pirates. So you got like Blackbeard and what's it? Yeah, like Blackbeard and Roberts and Steed Bonnet, Captain Kidd, John Rackham, Henry Morgan, all that, Charles Vane. They basically were making. It was proposed to make a pirate utopia. So basically, all of the cargo and all of the wealth and all the riches that they got, they would pool into this essentially a pirate empire, and they would essentially be a place where anyone could come. Doesn't matter who you are. You could be like you could be like the lowliest peasant, all the way to like kings and emperors. But but in Libertalia, everyone was equal. Didn't matter who you are, and that was the whole concept. Was to pull a line from Bioshock for a second. There were no gods or kings. There was only man. Um, I don't think it ever actually came to fruition because, unfortunately, like infighting and pirates that were just like, well, I don't want. Like I have a beef with with this one. I don't want my hard-earned treasure going towards them, and then vice versa. And yeah, so yeah, I don't think it ever actually happened, but it would have been it would have been an empire basically to rival the great powers at the time.
And like they,
'Cause
and sorry, go ahead, go ahead.
I was going to say because basically they would have ruled all the way from like the Caribbean all the way through. Was it like they basically would have controlled the entire Caribbean all the way from Florida down to like the South Americas.
It is something to say. Like it, this was one possibly the start of that time, but it is honestly great that the fleet never made it to where it was, because the dangers that would have happened with that wealth would have echoed throughout time for sure.
Oh yeah. And as I was looking as well, like going back to the Spanish side, they were already the richest empire at the time during this, so giving them even more wealth would have been catastrophic.
To say the least, yeah.
Well, it's catastrophic for everyone else around them.
Because they honestly didn't realize like what this meant for them, because it honestly, it probably would have saved for a lot of those for those places. They for I'm pretty sure for, what is it, for Spain, this was their, like I said, this was their bailout money. This is all they had left. And
Yeah, like they had like their gold and stuff back home, but this would have definitely been a nice jump start for the new king.
oh yeah, definitely.
But
And
from there, they basically, after the war ended, they had all of these major powers, mostly bankrupt, suddenly going, well, we can't pay all these people, we can't pay all these privateers, so oh yeah, you know, your contract has ended. You know, the king thanks you for your service. Go about your day.
which is probably one of the most disrespectful things they could have done. And now to jump onto it, let's go into one of our favorite honest topics, the ships.
Oh yes.
So I'm gonna let you take the headway on this, because I don't know that much about ships, but I know that you do.
Eh, to a degree, I know bits and pieces about ships. Not too well versed on the actual different. Like I know the different types of ship, like some of the different types of ships. So I know you've got your sloops, your brigs, your frigates, your galleons, your man o' wars. Um, was it some of them, especially like the man o' wars? A lot of cannons, a lot of cannons. Like let me have a look a second. So like a first-rate ship of the line, a man o' war of the Royal Navy, most of the time carried between 90 and 120 cannons across all three of its decks. Which I know a lot of these guns were. What was it? Like absolutely massive ships. Like you see a man of war coming towards you. If it's on your side, great. So, like you've basically just seen like in modern terms, you've basically just seen a battleship rolling towards you.
Exactly.
If you're on the enemy side, you're terrified because you've suddenly seen a battleship rolling towards you, and its guns are pointed at you.
Pretty much. And like, seeing, it's like seeing it in the game, it's like I got a fully upgraded ship, I can take down this man of war. No, no, what you see in the game, what you saw in real life was completely different. Now, is it possible a ship that was the size of Edward Kenway's to beat a man of war? It is possible. if it kept its distance and it used and it applied its long range weapons, or they used stealth and secrecy to get onto the ship and essentially take the ship without being noticed. That has been possible because it was done by Sam Bellamy. It is possible, but in a straight up head to head fight, it will lose. Man of wars were designed to destroy not just one ship, but multiple ships at a time. That's why some of them were given as many cannons as they were.
Oh yeah, like you're talking about like some of these ships, especially like the big ones, like the first rate man of wars, where they've got between like 90 and 120 cannons. Um, like some of these ships, if they've got a full broadside on, you've got like 50 to 60 cannons firing at you all at once.
Yep.
Like that is, and even if that is a small, even if that's a small cannon, like a 12-pounder, which for a man of war, it would definitely not have a 12. It would definitely not have 12-pounders as its broadside. You're more looking at the 24 or 36-pounders. Like these are, they're solid iron cannonballs. Like they're going through your ship whether you want it to or not. And then it will come. And then once it's reloaded, it's coming back for a second. And the
And
thing is, with like a Man of War, because it's got like 3 different decks, you most of the time you're not going to get. Like sometimes you will get like the full power of a broadside, which will knock the ship around and will take time to actually reorientate and reload all the guns. But more than likely, you're going to get like a firing line. You're going to get like the top deck fire, or the third deck firing, the second deck, and the first deck, and then by the time the first deck is fired, the third deck is firing again. Like you are getting torn to shreds if you face that thing broadside. The thing is, with a Man of War, it's slow. Like it's incredibly powerful, but that thing is slow to move.
when it goes boom, it goes boom, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh yeah, if a spark hits that one of those powder kegs, like I believe a Man of War had like 3 separate powder kegs, but one of those went up. If you imagine the scene from Pirates of the Caribbean, I believe the Curse of the Black Pearl, when they've was it like all the crew have been pulled aboard the Black Pearl and they're looking at the ship with Turner stuck in the hull of the ship and then it blows up. That, but bigger.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I believe in the At World's End, Beckett's ship is a first-rate ship of the line. I think that is a Man of War.
It is definitely a man of
So,
war.
so imagine that explosion. It's big. It's angry.
It's
You've
destructive.
definitely, and you've definitely, for lack of a better term, you've pissed off the party who has the Man of War because they've suddenly lost one of the most powerful ships. They are going to be coming after you with a vengeance, whether you be another empire or a pirate.
This is why pirates had to, and I mean had to heavily rely on deception and surprise. These were their most infamous and their most important tools, their trade. If you cannot use those, flee. Because the only
Yeah.
way to get a lot of these ships, because the amount of firepower they had, the only way to get them was by surprise and deception, which they used to effectiveness. And if you lost the element of surprise, then you had to use deception because they saw you. Okay, now what can I do to get them close to me, so I can intercept their ship, possibly disable it, so I can get what I need from that ship. If all else fails, run, flee, because you're not getting anywhere afterwards. And like you better hope they don't recognize your ship or they know exactly who you are, because and it's even worse if they know exactly where you are. Especially like if they know the
Oh,
place that you were and everything, like Nope, you're done. You're done.
Hmm. Uh, Now, it was very much possible for these smaller, more nimble ships,
Hmm.
like the pirate ships, to actually capture one of these behemoths of the sea, as is actually the case with Blackbeard, if we want to go into that.
Actually, I think yeah, I think we're at the point where we can actually start talking about some famous pirates. We'll start with the we'll start with the men first, and then we'll go with the ladies.
Yeah. Well, starting off with a bang, literally one of, if not the most famous pirate, was it Captain Edward Teach, also known as Blackbeard. So, during his time, literally one of the most feared pirates in the Caribbean. Like, to terrify the opposing crews, would have wicks placed in his beard that he would light up to make it look like he had a flaming beard. Basically, almost like he was the image of the devil at the time. So, you'd see a lot of these. I know during like a lot of media and stuff, he is basically indicted as like was it was it like imbued by like otherworldly powers or stuff like that, as is the case in like the Pirates of the Caribbean series. Um, but you'd see like all these, like if your ship was beset upon by the Queen Anne's Revenge and Blackbeard, you'd either try and flee or you'd surrender immediately. Those who actually tried to fight, a lot of the times, they did not survive very long. But looking at it here as well, so I cannot remember what ship Blackbeard actually started out with, but his flagship, the Queen Anne's Revenge, was actually, at the time, when he captured it, it was a French slaving ship called the was it La Concorde?
Yes.
So this one, he didn't take it a fair fight at all. Like, so the ship was what's that? Do, do, do. Now trying now trying to see where it was. Um,
I do know that the Queen Anne's Revenge was actually stolen from another pirate.
well,
Technically, yeah.
mm, he might have been the captain might have been considered a pirate, but it was still at the time like a French slaving ship. But it was the crew itself had already been, so they'd been out on the sea so long they didn't have any medicine, so they had all pretty much most of the crew had contracted some form of disease or scurvy when Blackbeard and his crew came in and completely took over the ship. I don't know what happened to the former crew. Most likely, either left on the island that they were captured near, or they were most likely sent to Davy Jones' locker. Um,
Probably the latter.
yeah, most likely. It was Blackbeard after all. Um, but yeah, 200-ton ship, outfitted eventually with 40 cannons, and then renamed to the Queen Anne's Revenge, which became one of the terrors of the sea at the time.
One thing I also did not know was that and so I saw a documentary about the age of piracy. I had no idea he had syphilis.
Hmm.
I never knew that he had syphilis. And the way he treated his syphilis was like this man went through the most painful way of somewhat treating his syphilis because and this is a point where like if you are a sensitive listener, this is probably the moment where you want to actually skip this part. From what I understand, in order to treat his syphilis, they had to use mercury to treat his syphilis. Syphilis is itself a sexually transmitted disease. It causes your mind to go. Actually, that's probably the best way to put it. It caused his mind to go, essentially leave his body, and which is caused one of the reasons why he became mad. And the only way they do that, they had to inject mercury into his hoo hoo.
Oh dear. Yeah, no, that's nine.
Yeah. So, and mercury itself also makes you extremely delirious. It also can poison your body. So, let this be a lesson to you, folks. If you don't want syphilis, wrap it up or stop sleeping around. Because
And also don't.
there was a lot of that around going around. Syphilis was very rampant during the pirates era.
It was some scurvy as well because they didn't. They drank rum and they drank rum and mostly like salted meats because of the voyages. So not a lot of them had access to like fruits.
Mm-hmm.
So scurvy was rampant.
Actually, explain what scurvy is and how easy it is to actually get it.
So what was it? I know with scurvy. So yeah, it's a. This is just from like Wikipedia and stuff like that. But it is a severe disease caused by a critical lack of vitamin C in a diet, leading to the breakdown of tissues, blood vessels, collagen, stuff like that. Um, so it's most of the time it's from malnourishment, but it is very easy to get just by not actually eating right. But it's also easy to cure as well by eating right.
You know what that means, folks? Go out in the sun, eat your apples, drink your orange juice, eat oranges, eat the fruits that have vitamin C in them. Because trust me, scurvy is not one of those things you want to screw around with.
Oh yeah, no. So many pirates died from scurvy. It's a bit ridiculous.
Granted, a lot of them, as Remy has said, could have prevented getting scurvy multiple times because a lot of the ships that were transporting goods had fruit and food that had vitamin C in them. But what were they taking primarily? They were taking rum, gold, silver, things that they could quickly sell instead of just taking the goods they needed to actually survive.
Yeah. It's like also looking at it as well, like for long voyages and stuff, they didn't want to take like fruits and veg because they spoiled so quickly. So a lot of them like primarily this isn't even just for the pirates. This is also just during like the age of sail as well. Primarily the food of choice was hardtack, which is basically just a dry biscuit and like salted meats. So very, very, very dry stuff. If
And,
they did have fresh fruits and veg, they had basically just come from land, or they had just like docked off at land, and maybe last like a couple days at most before it went bad.
and also to put this in perspective, the number one thing you did not want on the ship, food wise, drum roll, is not apples, not grapes, not even oranges. Remy, do you know what it is?
I do not.
Bananas. Bananas, over a certain amount of time, release a form of methane gas when they begin to rot. And what happens on a lot of ships when they're out to sea? Fire, explosions. If you have a bunch of bananas in a crate and they all begin to rot, that is basically a grenade right on your ship. And fire or anything gets close to that, it causes a massive, massive explosion, obviously. So bananas were actually banned on a lot of ships because of the chance of them producing methane gas or some type of chemical that is explosive.
Didn't actually know that.
Yes, the apparently when they begin to rot, the smell can actually it produces some type of gas. I can look it up and uh to get more clarification, but it is, yeah. But
Hmm.
as I'm doing that, let's move on to, well, let's see. We talked about, let's see, how did Blackbeard die?
So in the end, I believe Blackbeard actually he was either I forget now. I can't remember if he was. I think he was running away from the Royal Navy because they'd finally tracked him down. But he actually either intentionally or he either intentionally did this or it was just a navigational issue. But he ended up running aground the Queen Anne's Revenge in North Carolina in the Beaufort Inlet on a sandbar. And there, from there, the Royal Navy actually caught up to him, and well, they decapitated him and hung his head from the was it from one of the main arms of the actual sails, basically as a warning to other pirates, like, hey, Blackbeard is dead. Don't mess with us, because we're the ones who got him. So what they actually did as well is when the Queen Anne's Revenge actually hit this sandbar, it completely sank, like went down. It was gone. So they actually found the ship in 1996, and they've found over 400,000 artifacts on it, and they've been trying to preserve and actually recover the Queen Anne's Revenge itself.
Oh, did they
But
find
this
it?
is oh yeah, they found it almost 30 years ago now.
Mm.
But yeah, they're actively trying to like conserve and actually recover the ship. But this is actually where a lot of the modern artifacts of the Age of Piracy come about. Literally, they were like pulling cannons and like uh, like preserved artifacts and stuff out of the ship, which is pretty cool.
Okay, so I found it. So what happens is bananas, what they end up doing is if they come into contact with water, which is extremely easily, which is easily because you're on a ship surrounded by water. What happens is when water comes in contact with it, the the calcium carbide, which is in the bananas, produces acetylene gas. And what happens is, for those that don't know what acetylene is, acetylene gas is a highly flammable, colorless gas. So you don't even know, you can't even see it floating in the air. So when it's produced, the only way you know that it's in the air is if you smell it. And if you smell it, you're already in danger because there's a point, if you smell it, it will actually cause you to go into some type of shock. It's poisonous. This gas is actually used in welding, brazing, and cutting. It produces the highest flame temperature of possibly any gas.
Hmm.
So imagine you have 2 to 3 barrels of bananas, and they've come in contact with seawater. Now it is only a matter of time when they rot that all it's going to take is somebody lighting a match for like a cigarette or for tobacco. Now, like I said, this is the hottest flame that it can produce. So that means it's going to burst with the gunpowder, essentially destroy your ship,
Which would not be good.
which would be very, very bad, especially if you are transporting goods as well. So, no
Yeah.
bananas on ships, folks. I don't even think they have bananas on Caribbean cruises at all, I think either.
I think I've seen bananas on the cruise ships.
Yeah, but cruise ships usually they're transported within like 3 days, so yeah, they can get all the bad ones out by then. Yeah,
Yeah, but also like modern ships don't take like like 8 to 12 months to get across the ocean.
very, very true. So moving on, we will go. Let's do Benjamin Hornigold. Now Ben Hornigold is probably he's considered by many historical. He's one of the genuine leaders of the pirate colony that was in Nassau. He had the charisma and the decisive attitude to actually be able to, you know, establish some type of leadership on the island. But his leadership was what got him into trouble a lot of times because his hesitancy to act against certain ships, which is why another character, Black Sam Bellamy, and him got into consistent arguments because Benjamin Hornigold refused to attack British ships. He refused to do it because he himself was part of the British Empire, and he considered them brothers and would not do that, even though a lot of the pirates around him were like, they have gold, they have things that we need. We need to attack those ships. He refused to, and this is why a lot of pirates began to separate themselves from him. And they said, like, if they have goods, they are free game. It doesn't matter where they're from, what allegiance are. If they have goods, they are free game, and we're going to take from them. Because guess what? They don't care where they put us out of work. They don't care that they took our pensions, our retirement, all our money. We're broke because these empires took all that we had. Even though they are broke, we're going to squeeze them for all they're worth. So it is. And Black Sam Bellamy, just slightly going on him, but actually became one of the most famous pirates. Capturing multiple ships, getting a ton of wealth. But what ended up happening was that I believe he got sick. He either got sick or something, or he died in one of the battles because his goal was to, he was essentially becoming a pirate because his wife, him and his wife were broke, and he wanted to come back home with wealth to be able to grow his family. But he never ended up making it back because he was either got sick or he lost in a fight. I'm not sure what it was. I know he did not get hanged. I know that for sure. He was not
No,
executed.
yeah. So a lot of the pirates, as far as I'm aware, they either got executed or they turned on each other. A few pirates actually got, what's it? Essentially given special treatment, and they got pardons from the king of most of the time the king of England.
Mm.
I
Oh,
believe it was actually Captain Morgan that got a pardon from the Spanish crown and ended up becoming the governor of Havana for a while until he passed.
gotcha. Here it is. So he did not die in a fight. He did not get sick. He drowned.
Oh.
So apparently he was on the way back to go be with his girl, and what ended up happening was there was a storm that came in and essentially destroyed the ship. And what ended up happening, the mast crashed into the ship and essentially drowned all of the crew members on there. The only ones to survive was his first mate. I believe his name is Williams. Yeah, his name was Williams, and he made it back to Nassau to tell the rest of them what happened. So he
Hmm.
he was not bested by the crown, and he did not get sick. He actually just he drowned. So yeah, that is, yeah, unfortunate. That's honestly probably the more tame of the it's probably the more tame of the ends that happen to a lot of them, because a lot of them, they were either violently hung or killed or got sick. This guy literally, he just drowned.
Well, it's not exactly the most peaceful way to go out, but definitely one of the better than the alternatives, I guess.
Based on what happened to a lot of them, that's probably the, yeah. But back to Horn of Gold. Um, Horn of Gold was actually, despite what you see in the Assassin's Creed game, Blackbeard actually looked up to Horn of Gold very much. Like he was very loyal to him because Horn of Gold actually gave Blackbeard his first ship that he ever sold. So he was very indebted to him and he was very loyal to him. They didn't argue and fight a lot. It wasn't until the pardon or that they were starting to hunt pirates that they began to become at odds with each other, and they ultimately went their separate ways. And I don't know the I don't know the ending for Hornigal. All I know is that he took the pardon and he began to hunt his fellow brethren, became a privateer hunting pirates for the crown at this point, which is kind of a betrayal within a betrayal because you betray the empire that you fought against, and now you're betraying your brothers that you helped build, and now you're just taking them away instead of taking their goods, but now you're able to legally do it now.
Yeah.
It's one of those things like pick a side, bro. Like you're
Hornigal was definitely a bit of an ass.
and then let's see here. Now Charles Vane. Charles Vane was probably one of the most insane pirates and probably got the, if I do say so myself, the most deserved ending out of all the pirates because this dude was mad crazy. He was considered by many the one of the most violent pirates of the time because this dude is literally going around sacking, shooting, cutting up people's like faces. Like this dude was brutal. Like what we got in the games was a very tame version of the man.
Although I do think Edward Lowe definitely takes the cake with being the most vicious. Like the guy would literally. This bit's a little bit somewhat graphic. Will literally cut off the lips of his captives, roast them, and then eat them. Um,
Sounds
and
about right.
he would torture his victims using like burning matches and wicks and candles and stuff like that to find information about hidden treasure. And he also turned on his own crew as well. So if a member of Edward Lowe's crew showed cowardice or questioned his authority, he would routinely either shoot them or abandon them on uninhabited islands without food. But
Wow.
yes, so this is he's one of the most universally recognized ruthless pirates. One of the other ones who basically, I wouldn't be surprised if he looked at either one of them looked at each other and went, "Hey, that guy's doing good. Let me copy him." But Charles Vane was definitely in that category as well. Like Vane would routinely beat and torture captured sailors to force surrenders. And if I'm looking at eventually, he what's it? So his crew actually turned on him in the end. They marooned him on an island.
Yep.
I'm not sure who ended up capturing him in the end, but eventually someone found out where he was marooned. They captured and hung him.
And if I'm looking at it right, because he was so insane, you're right. He actually did get voted out. Him and his quartermaster, along with 16 others, and they were essentially dropped off and left marooned. Essentially, Vane tried to actually escape off a crew using a false name, but he got found out and he was hung for his crimes.
Yeah. I will say there is some misrepresentation with like pirates and their crews basically being like, oh yeah, it's captain's orders and everyone like must follow the captain's orders to the letter. However, like the ships at the time were basically mini democracies. Like
Yep.
if if the captain was treating their crew badly, the crew would definitely turn around and go, "Okay, we have voted. You are no longer our captain." Like they essentially give them the black spot, which is the equivalent of a pirate death sentence.
Yeah. Like you're lucky if you just get the you're lucky if you just get the like we're gonna maroon you. If they really didn't like you, oh man, you were done. You were really really done.
Uh,
Jack and the Pirates of the Caribbean got the easy way out. They essentially just marooned him. So
yeah.
it was
So
something different. Yeah.
also looking as well. So the black spot itself was never an actual thing. Like they didn't actually like draw a black spot on a piece of paper and give it to someone. Like they would still maroon them on an island or just like outright get rid of the captains by any means necessary. But the black spot itself was popularized by Treasure Island, the novel by Robert Louis Stevenson. Yeah, but they probably did have. Of course, none of us officially know because one, um, logs during that time weren't exactly the most thorough, and it's not like we've invented any form of time travel where we can go, let's go ask a pirate what their what they were doing or like what they thought of Blackbeard or stuff like that. But there was definitely essentially like a mini system of governance on every single ship.
So based on that, we're gonna take a just a brief change, and I actually want to go over just going over the when it comes to democracy. Let's actually go over some of the rules or the pirate codes that was established by some of the pirates. So I have some of them pulled up here. One of them, as we best just went over, is every man has a vote in affairs of moment, has equal title of fresh provisions or strong liquor at any time seized, may use them at pleasure unless a scarcity makes it necessary for the good of all to vote retrenchment. Every man to be called, this is another one, every man to be called fairly in turn by list on board prizes because over and above a proper share, they were on these occasions allowed to shift of clothes, but if they defraud the company of their value, this is a lot. Um, essentially saying like just don't take more than you're supposed to get. No person of game, no person to game at cards or dice for money. So this means no gambling on the ship. The lights and candles to be put out at 8 o'clock at night. If any crew after the hour still remain inclined for drinking, they were to do it on open deck. So this means like if you're doing anything like drinking or just talking, anything you had to do on the open deck, you were not allowed to do it underneath the ship because everyone is sleeping. They're to keep their weapons and cutlasses fit and clean for service. There were no boys or women to be allowed on the ship. If any man were found trying to seduce any of them on the ship, if anyone was found, he's put to death.
Yeah, and then there was also the I'm seeing here as well. Like with that strict discipline, it was the if they fell asleep on watch, if they deserted, or they brought a woman on board without permission, were immediate offences.
And then, here's another one of them because apparently some of them were actually religious. The musicians have rest on the Sabbath day, but the other 6 days and nights, none without special favor. So some of them actually did honor the Sabbath and actually had some sort of religion. So that is actually surprising.
Yeah, well, it makes sense. Like before becoming pirates, they were privateers, and before that, they were the common folk of of their respective countries. So they all come from different backgrounds and different nationalities, but also different religions as well. Though at that point, especially with Europe, most of it was Catholic, if I remember correctly.
Okay, here's another one. Oh, okay. This is one from John Phillips. If any time you meet a prudent woman, there we go. Okay, this is the words is really okay because I know I'm reading these right. If any time you meet a prudent woman, that man that offers to meddle with her without her consent shall be suffer present death. This means he's killed immediately. So all the rumors about the rape and murder, they did happen. Mind you, they did happen, but some of the captains did not tolerate that in any way. So
Yeah.
they do have
And
some
as a thing,
morality.
yeah, like a lot of these rules were dependent on the ships. Like a lot of the more, like a lot of like the general pirate crews, or even like had like most of these rules, or like the majority of them. Some of the tamer pirates had more rules, and then some of the more vicious pirates had a lot less rules, or no rules at all. But the ones who generally had no rules at all suddenly found their ship at the bottom of the ocean, or the captain was disappeared under mysterious circumstances.
Oh, oh my gosh, here's a couple. Here's another few of them. Um, so here's how a lot of the loot was shared. The captain is to have 2 full shares. The quartermaster is to have 1 share and a half. The doctor, the mate, the gunner, and boatswain 1 share and a quarter. So they divided their shares very equally. So this was a very democratic version of working. He that shall be found guilty of cowardice in engagements shall suffer what the punishment of the captain and the majority of the company see fit. So this wasn't just up to the captain. This was what the ship, the crew felt as well. Ooh, there's another one here
Yeah.
about gambling too. Gambling really wasn't tolerated. Found guilty of gambling or defrauding one another of value of royal plate shall suffer what punishment in the cap. Oh, so yeah. But here's one I actually do like a lot, because this to me is this to me, like it's beautiful. Like, despite their ways, they took care of their own. He that shall have the misfortune to lose a limb in time of engagement shall have a sum of 600 pieces of 8 and remain on board as long as he shall think fit. So that means if I'm dramatically injured while fighting, I'm not sure how much 600 pieces of 8 is. I'm not. But you're given that, and you're allowed to stay on the crew as long as you are able, or you see fit, pretty much. This was medical insurance and pension for them. This basically means that if my hand gets shot and they have to cut my hand off, I'm allowed to stay on the ship if I want to and still get money. But if I don't, they're giving me money to live, and I still have a spot on the crew if I'm willing to stay. If this happened to you during the empires of the time and you got injured, a lot of them didn't give you money anyway. You're just deemed for the streets. That's surprising, Remy. That's surprising to me.
So one thing that I am looking at right now, so a piece of 8, which was based on so it was a Spanish, was it a Spanish 8 real silver coin, which was worth its weight in silver, so roughly 27 grams. Functioning as the primary global currency of the era, it had a specific face value buying power and exchange rate. So in USD, a single piece of 8 was worth about $50. So
So let me see.
So
Six
I think
hundred pieces of eight. How much is that?
let's see, about $30,000.
So you were given, if you got injured during your engagement, you were essentially given, to modern standards, $30,000. To essentially, which means you're given $30,000. You are discharged from your work, or you are given $30,000 and essentially put on a disabled list, which means you're still actively able to work as long as you want to. That's not bad. Can you imagine that Can you imagine that getting shot in the military? You're given $30,000, and you're still a part of the military, but you're able to do other work. Otherwise, you can be discharged and just take the 30 grand. Because it's not saying you get 30 grand or nothing. It says you can get 30 grand and still keep working. A lot of the guys that who are veterans now, if they get injured, they just go to the hospital and they're sent home. They're not given anything after that. These pirates are taking care of their veterans, honestly, in some ways better than what we're doing now. It's just a shame.
Uh, but at the end of the day, they are still pirates.
Yes, don't take my admiration into like what they were doing right. It's just like I'm establishing that they have their code is so vast in the way of keeping order, but they are taking care of their own better than their empires at the time were doing. Because again, a lot of these guys were privateers. Once the war was over, they were giving nothing. So even if you couldn't become a pirate, let's say you got injured during the war, you are now broke and you are injured, handicapped. But during this time, if you got injured at work, they gave you money to essentially like, hey, here's money to start a new life with, get some land, whatever you need to do, or here's some money to for your injuries, and here's you have a spot in the crew as long as you want it.
Yeah.
I do
Um,
approve of them taking care of their own. I don't like how they're doing it. Don't get me wrong here, but yes.
that's fair. I was just going to make um, a slight change to something that I was saying earlier.
Mm-hmm.
That's all right.
Yeah, go ahead.
So when I was saying about it would take between like 8 and 12 months to actually cross the ocean from the Caribbean, that was incredibly wrong. So to actually cross from the Caribbean back to Europe, it would actually take about 6 to 8 weeks, depending on where you're going. So
A month and a half.
what was it? Yeah, it would. Yeah, it would take about. Yeah, it would take about just around a month to about a month and a half to actually get from from the Caribbean all the way over to Europe, depending on where you're going. The bit that I searched up, it was between the Caribbean and England, which was said between 4 and 6 weeks.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
Yeah. So if you go into what's it? If you go into Spain or France, because they're closer as well, you're probably looking at more like the 4 weeks.
Wow.
So yeah.
So they were going pretty fast. They were getting there. It took a hot minute, but they were still getting there. They were still getting there.
Oh yeah. Which for as well for the war that was going on, like if you needed reinforcements, it was going to take anywhere between 4 and 8 weeks in order to get your reinforcements. So hold out as best you can. And then on the flip side, with all these former privateers become pirates, if they did want to go home, it was going to be between 4 and 8 weeks to get back home.
Yeah.
And you never know what happens in that time. You could, like, if it was right at the end of the war, you could have been like, oh yeah, I've been released from my service as a privateer. I'm going back home, and then by the time you get back home, it's like, oh yeah, we thought you were dead, so we sold off all of your property.
And now all your children are put into servitude, and your wife, well, she died.
Yeah.
That was a reality for a lot of them. That was literally the reality for a lot of them. What they had when they started the war to what they came back to, yeah, that's genuinely a reality of it. The women during that time, they were unsure unless they got letters, and a lot of the guys couldn't read and write anyway unless they knew for a fact they were getting letters telling them like, hey, I'm alive and I'm well. They A lot of them were of the mindset that when they went out to either war or to go do piracy or anything like that, they were not coming back.
Oh yeah. It's like even up until like, I mean, Christ, it even happens today in like our modern times, like with like war zones and everything. Like even with all of our like vast technology these days, like a lot of the time technology can fail.
Yeah,
So you know, people like soldiers write letters home, and then those can take weeks or months to actually get back. And then by the time they actually get back, for all for all the yeah word sorry for all each side knows, the other recipient could have either passed away, moved on, done something else.
yep. And
You never really know.
it happens way too much, way too much. But anyway, because all right, we've gone over a lot of the men. There's a lot more, but we've gone over a lot of the men. Let's dive into some of the women, and I will start this one off with the beautiful, the vivacious, the luxurious Anne Bonny. She is as fiery as her hair, and possibly one of the most fiercest women uh, of the pirates. For she was she came to the Nassau with her husband at the time, whom she did not love. She married out of obligation, and she was as tough as the men that she was around. Despite also being married, she had numerous affairs as well, which include Benjamin Hornigold and who else? Edward Teague, Blackbeard. Funny enough, she did not get syphilis from him, despite him having it. Um, there's also, and then it ultimately comes down to,
Do you
uh,
mean Teague or Teach?
is it Teague or Teach? I think it's Teague, right? Edward Teague,
Edward Teach is Blackbeard.
Edward Teach. My bad. Uh,
Teague is Captain Jack Sparrow's dad.
she ultimately falls in love with Calico Jack, who actually negotiates her husband to divorce her so they can actually be together. But the relationship is not that good because Jack is, for all intents and purposes, is a coward. He does not like to fight, essentially, and when he engages in fights with other ships, it is Mary Read and Anne Bonny who actually end up taking the ships and establishing the command of the ship. So they are Mary Read and Anne Bonny are essentially the ones running the ship. Calico Jack is the de facto, quote unquote, de facto captain, but these two women rule the ship. What ultimately ends up happening is to Anne, the ship gets captured and she is with child and she is spared from hanging. Jack is not. Jack is killed, but she is spared and then sent back to, I believe, England to live out to back to her home country, where she lives out the rest of her life. Not much is known after that, but she is still one of my favorites. Mary Read, who at the time was a, I believe she was under the guise of Captain Kidd's son. So she wore men's clothes to give off the appearance of men, but eventually she was found out. But she was not shunned away. She became a captain alongside a Mary and helped capture a bunch of ships as well. So these women were not a push. These women were not pushovers. They were as fierce as the men that they commanded, and extremely skilled in what they did.
Oh yes.
Like the legends between a lot of them is something special. Like, and they don't go into great detail about it in AC 4, but the stories you hear about them is something special. Oh, I need to amend what I said. My bad. So Anne Bonny and Mary Read are both arrested, but Mary is not killed. She dies in prison. My bad.
Mm. Yeah, a lot of these pirates did pass away before they had judgment cast upon them.
So we ultimately do not know the fate of Anne Bonny. There's some things that say like her family negotiated to get her out of prison. We don't know. All we know is that she was not executed. So this possibly means that she probably died in prison. She probably lived somewhere after her career, whatever. But we do not know. All that we know is that her and Mary Read were best friends, and they did great work together. So, yeah.
Mm.
Another female we have here is probably one of the most famous pirates of all time. I'm going to butcher this name, and I'm trying not to. Zheng Shizhao. The woman in question, as I said, is one of the most famous pirates of all time, because of the fact that she had close to 40,000 men. And these either men or ships in her command. I have to double check that. Um, but
I'd say 40,000 men sounds a bit more accurate than 40,000 ships. Like
okay,
I think 40,000 ships would actually rival even. I think that would rival like the Royal Navy, the French Navy, and the Spanish Navy put together.
okay, you're absolutely right. She had between 40,000 and 70,000 pirates with 400 ships.
That sounds a lot more accurate. Because like 40,000 ships, like she could pretty much like uh, rule anywhere that she set her mind to.
She is considered by history the most famous female pirate. Hold on, let me get this right. She is considered history's most successful female pirate out of all of them, and considered one of the most successful pirates of all. So this is men and women. She's considered one of the most famous of all of them.
Didn't she also become empress as well at one point?
Let's take a look. See.
I want to say I vaguely remember hearing that towards the end of her piracy career that she actually became the empress, maybe not of China, but of like one of the dynasties, or maybe started her own dynasty. I can't remember.
It would not surprise me if it did. It would not surprise me because with the backing that she had, with the amount of men that she had in ships, it would not surprise us because she had essentially with 40,000 and 70,000 troops, she has an army of her own
Oh yeah,
that she honestly probably could have taken several countries if she wanted to. It would not
I
surprise
don't.
me.
I don't think countries, but she could have definitely taken a lot of land.
Yeah, I could see that. I could see that.
Because like, yeah, 40 to 70,000. Like she definitely had enough, like enough men under her actual command that, yeah, definitely done some damage. Let's actually have a look.
Hmm. So she lost her husband relatively early, but she took control of the Confederation, and the way she took let's see here. Okay, so she started sleeping with one of the heads of the Confederation, and that's how it helped her get to that. Okay. Let's see, but she ultimately, towards the latter part of her life, she operated a gambling house. She died at the age of 68 or 69, which is very, very shocking, especially the career that a lot of the pirates get into. Most of them die before they reach age 40. And it looks like she had a very small set of rules, but they were very, very okay. So her rules: if any pirate goes privately on shore, he shall be taken, his ears mutilated, and he will be paraded around the fleet and executed. So no one is sneaking off the shore. You are to stay on the ship unless you go with everyone else. Not the least thing shall be taken privately from stolen and plundered goods, so no stealing. All shall be registered. Okay. The pirate receives for himself out of ten parts, only two, 8 parts belonging to the store. Okay. Okay. So she's making sure everything is funded before payout gets okay. Call the general fund. Those who steal anything out of this general fund are executed. She wanted to make sure they maintain the ships and anything that was before the make. Okay, understandable. Women captured from villages shall not be harmed or harassed. All women captives shall be registered and their place of origin recorded and be given separate quarters. So she took care of the women. She made sure of that. Those who rape or commit adultery with the women captors are executed. Here's another. Oh, here's some more of them. Anyone caught giving commands on their own or disobeying command from a superior is, oh my gosh, decapitated.
Mm.
Pilfering among common treasure or public fund, stealing from villagers who supplied the pirates were capital offenses. No pirate can take any goods before inspection. Goods had to be registered and distributed by the fleet leader. 20% of the booty was to be returned to the original captor, and remainder was placed in a joint treasury or storehouse. Currency was to be handed over to the squadron leader, and part was turned over to the fleet, some back to the captor.
So it's like if some like random low-ranked pirate actually led the charge and captured the loot, they would get 20% of um, the actual overall take of that. Is what I'm guessing at.
Looks like it.
Was what I'm hearing.
Something tells me like she made sure like there was a measure of fairness for everyone on their ships, and they made sure of that.
Oh, sounds like it.
It for this, like, again, do not mistake me for believing what they were doing is right. A lot of these pirates were very, very brutal, and a lot of them did not follow the rules that you and I are reading off. A lot of them lived by their own codes, and they were pretty destructive. And I don't know what the word I would be trying to use is, but like, yeah. So don't mistake my fondness for admiration. They were doing wrong. Don't get me wrong about that. They were doing wrong. And then so let's see, we got Mary Read and Bonnie Zing. Let's see, Rachel Wall. So this is a small pirate. She only did pirating for 2 years. She did it with her husband, and she captured only local fishing ships apparently. But after the 2 years during that time, she was ultimately captured and hanged. But she established her name very, very quickly for just even 2 years. Because even now we are still remembering her, even after all this time. So she made sure that she put her stamp on history before she died. She died, as I'm looking at this, at the age of 29. So yeah.
Hmm.
Oh, okay. So if I'm looking at this right, wow, she was. Mm, she never killed anyone during her robberies, and during her time as a pirate, she never killed anyone. She captured and robbed, but she never killed anyone. That's wow.
Oh.
That's very. That's very. Does not happen a lot.
Yeah, it seems so. A lot of the like fictional depictions of pirates definitely have them as being like, avast, we're gonna take your gold and kill anyone that doesn't that gets in our way. A lot of the time, though, bar some exceptions, of course, with some of our captains that we've chatted to tonight or chatted about tonight, um, they a lot of the time they would just they'd strike the colours, fire a couple shots, damage the ships, but ultimately it's like, oh, like, thank you for surrendering to us. We'll make this quick. It's like, oh yeah, we'll take like 60% of your loot or 80% of your loot. We'll make it look like, especially the ones that cooperated. It's like, oh yeah, we'll make it look like you put up a fight so that you don't get a lashing or anything uh, from your superiors, who are most likely just chilling all nice and comfy and on the mainland,
Correct.
and then you can be on your way. And then yeah, there were some exceptions, especially like what was it? Yeah, like Charles Vane and Edward Lowe, who would actually torture people.
So apparently, what they did, they captured 12 boats and stole $7,000 in at that time cash, and with along with the other under undescribed valuables. So she did quite a bit for the short time that she was able to do it. Unfortunately, her and her husband, the crew that she ran with, they eventually they drowned and were washed out to sea. She made it back um, and posed as a servant for quite some time. But the only reason she got caught is she tried to rob someone. But ultimately doing so, when she got tried, she only got tried for the robbery. But she told him to try her as a pirate, which I don't know how smart
mm.
that I don't understand how smart that is. But they ended up okay, her last words, which we don't get a lot of with pirates. It says, "Into the hands of Almighty God I commit my soul, relying on his mercy, and die an unworthy member of the Presbyterian Church in the 29th year of my life." She was the last woman to be hanged in Massachusetts.
Oh wow.
This is after the Salem witch trial crap that happened, which is another topic of conversation we're going to go into on another day, because that is Remy. When I tell you that my God, it is my God, my God. Anyway, we're on the
So
topic of pirates right now, because that's a heavy
uh,
subject that it still infuriates me to this day.
mm. Going slightly off topic again for a second.
Mm-hmm.
We'll go back on topic in just a second. You've actually just reminded me of something, and it actually links back to our Dungeons and Dragons episode that we did, a few months ago at this point,
Mm-hmm.
um, where it was, what was it? An elderly. The time periods, you can have an elderly pirate, a samurai, a was it a cowboy, and I cannot remember the fourth member. But you can basically have all these four members meet up in a D&D style tavern and actually have them be historically accurate, because like during this like wild time period, all four members would be alive.
Say them again.
So you could have an elderly pirate,
Yep.
a samurai,
Yep. For sure.
a like a western cowboy gunslinger, and I cannot remember the fourth party member off the top of my head. But it's around that time period. But you could have all four of them together in a tavern, and it actually be historically accurate.
The pirate one is a little bit of a stretch, but I can honestly see it.
It- well, that's why it's an elderly pirate. Like they are at that point, they are probably pushing 60 or 70, which for a pirate is ancient.
A samurai for sure. For sure. For sure.
Was it the Ming Dynasty? Maybe.
Yep. The cowboy is kind of a stretch a little bit because the for cowboys the I mean I don't know because when I think cowboy I'm thinking the 1860s on forward when it comes to pirate not the pirate stuff but cowboys. I could be wrong though.
Yeah. So
It is again I could be wrong. My history is not as good as it used to be when I was a kid.
ah, here it is. Oh, okay. There's actually more. So yeah, this is just like it's a writing prompt from Reddit, but it is like in the historical bit. There was a brief window in the 1800s where you could have an adventuring party made up of a samurai, an elderly pirate captain, a Zulu warrior, a cowboy, and a Victorian gentleman detective, and have it be 100% historically accurate.
The Zulu warrior for sure. The what were the last two?
A cowboy and a Victorian gentleman detective, like basically Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah, for sure. Especially with Syndicate around that time period, 100%. It definitely could have happened. It definitely can happen. The cowboy is a bit of a stretch, though. No, actually, no, no, actually,
Um,
no. I'm wrong. I'm wrong. The with the Zulu and yeah, the cowboy actually very. It's the pirate one that's like a little bit of a stretch, especially the elderly one. But it again, it is possible because it's as the pirate era ended close to the 18th century. So it is possible the person like could have started in 17 like I want to say I want to say 1780 probably 1780 and
yeah.
like
Well, it's like the Golden Age of Piracy ended around like so most historians mark the end of the Golden Age of Piracy, both in the Caribbean and the Red Sea, around about 1730.
1713.
30s, 1730.
Okay.
So if, say, you had a pirate captain that started in 1729,
Right.
like by the time that it hits like the 1820s, like yeah, they are very like they are old at that point. They're in their 90s at that point, like late 80s, early 90s, just off the top of my head.
Right. And like it's now don't get me wrong, the golden age of piracy was during that time. That does not mean piracy stopped altogether. Like there was still piracy going on. Like these are the most famous pirates that we have. But
Oh yeah,
there are still pirates being like around. Like even towards the period going into the Revolutionary War, there were still pirates around. They just weren't as active because the empires had learned to subdue them quickly and do it rather efficiently. So like the the vastness and the influence the pirates had was not as strong during this time because once the empires got their selves into better like stances, then piracy was pretty much hunted down and rooted out, pretty much. So
Mm,
yes, that is absolutely possible because even the character Rachel Wall, the one I told you about, she died in 1789, I believe it was. Yeah, 1789. So that means like that pirate could possibly look like what 70, 80 when at the time of this prompt. So yeah, like you said, it is very possible. He could have started around
yeah.
1780, retired around 1790, got a pardon, and like just lived off the riches that he had and up until that point. So you are absolutely right. It is possible.
Oh, yeah. No, it's just something. It's just something that I keep seeing popping up, and it's a little bit wild.
And before we close out this very long episode, um,
It's
one of my
quite a while
favorite
though.
pirates of all time, Grace O'Malley. Now, Grace was one of the very few pirates, the very few that lived to quite a bit of an old age, along with Zhang Zhao. Most of the men pirates died before they even hit their 40th year. Most of them, and she was very successful as what she did. She married several times, had several kids, but she ultimately wanted to make sure that she established a good holding for not only her family, but made sure that like she was not subjugated to just her sex essentially. Like she wanted people to know like, hey, I may be a woman, but I can do anything a man can do. And she was one of the few pirates that actually met royalty because she ended up meeting, I believe it was Queen Elizabeth, I think.
Oh wow.
And she actually spoke to her person to person. Grace was very old at this time when this happened. Um, actually, both of them were, and they actually had a mutual. What was it? They had a mutual respect for both each other. They knew each other's background, especially Elizabeth knew O'Malley's background, but they had a mutual respect for each other and the work that she did.
Do you mean Victoria and not Elizabeth?
Wait, was it Victoria? Hold on.
Because
Gotta fact
Victoria,
check me.
I was about to say Victoria died in 1603, but then
Hmm.
again, I don't actually. No, I don't know because was Victoria was born in 1819. So
It's Queen Elizabeth. It is Queen Elizabeth. Yes.
okay, so a very old Queen Elizabeth,
Yeah.
the
They
first.
both were. Apparently, they died around the same time. So like, yeah.
So before the actual Golden Age of Piracy.
Yep. So she was one of the founding like grandmothers, godmothers of piracy before it actually started to take like its hold essentially.
Because I was about to say, like it's basically over 100 years before. Was it?
The golden age, yeah.
Yeah, it's over 100 years before the actual Golden Age of Piracy. So
But with that, folks, I think we're gonna have to wrap this episode up because like it is extended long past the point to which I like to record, but it has still been a great talk. N- uh, uh,
oh, it's
Nonetheless, we've covered a lot of this, a lot of topics, a lot of pirates, and if this is something that you guys like, well, maybe we'll dive into just like certain pirates and do individual episodes for them. But for now, yes.
I was gonna say, or if when Resynced comes out, if you want us to chat about that as well, like no spoilers, of course, right now because there might be some people who have never actually Never actually seen Black Flag before, which would be a shame, and they should definitely go and check it out.
Oh, for sure. Especially with the
No
graphics they
pressure.
have right now for this game. And if this is going to be your
It,
first playthrough of the game, I highly suggest that you get this game, especially if it's going to be your first playthrough. I highly suggest that you do.
oh yeah, and if you have the original Black Flag, chuck on, go sail around in the jackdaw for a bit, listen to some shanties, and enjoy the waves.
Indeed. And as we close out, I want to ask you guys in the comments down below. Let us know what your favorite sea shanty is. Excuse me. Shanty from Assassin's Creed Black Flag, or even just your favorite shanty overall in a general. It may not have been in Black Flag, but your favorite one of all anyway. But as we close out uh, swashbuckling episode, Remy, do you have any final thoughts?
Ah, I'd say don't roast us too hard if we've got our facts wrong. There is a lot. There is a lot to cover with the Age of Piracy.
Oh
But
yeah.
other than that, have a good time. Have a good time, and we shall see you on the next one.
As I raise my cup to you all, it's not filled with rum, but I still raise my cup to you all. I say to all of you, cheers. This is Epic Ray of the Hard Cannon Podcast.